What happens when the CEO of a booming rideshare company hails one of his own taxis, and the driver unknowingly spills the ugly truth? Travis Russell leaned back in his office chair, rubbing his tired eyes. He had built his company from nothing, starting with 3 used sedans and a dream of better, safer rides. Now there were 5 major locations, hundreds of drivers under his brand, and yet, something was off. Complaints about driver satisfaction were trickling in, but the reports he got from district managers painted everything as under control. He didn't trust it. He had never personally met most of the drivers. They were hired and trained by local managers. He was just the name on the checks. It made sense. The company was too big now for him to be involved in every hire, but somewhere along the way, he had lost touch. That gnawed at him. He needed to see it for himself, not as the CEO, but as just another guy. He grew a thick beard, traded his tailored suits for jeans and a faded hoodie, and wore a baseball cap low over his eyes. No one from the 5 locations had ever seen him in person, except through the occasional glossy newsletter photo. Most wouldn't recognize him even if he sat next to them. Perfect. Travis decided to start with the second busiest location, the downtown garage. He booked a ride through the app like any other customer. He wanted to experience the service firsthand. He checked his phone, driver assigned, Raymond L., arrival in 3 minutes. Travis stepped out onto the sidewalk, heart thudding. The sun was setting and the city buzzed around him. A battered silver sedan pulled up. The driver, a rough-looking man in his 50s with tired eyes and a crooked Yankees cap, leaned over and said, "You Travis?" "Yeah," Travis said, climbing into the back seat. They pulled into traffic. The cab smelled faintly of old coffee and pine air freshener. Travis kept his eyes on the street ahead, trying to think of casual ways to ask questions without blowing his cover. "Long day," he said. Raymond chuckled dryly. "Man, every day's long when you're busting your butt for scraps." Travis froze. He hadn't expected that. His throat tightened, but he forced himself to play it cool. "Scraps." Raymond snorted. "You think we're living good? After gas, wear and tear, taxes? I might as well be working at a gas station. At least they'd pay me hourly." Travis swallowed hard, his mind racing. "I thought the company paid bonuses and stuff." Raymond barked a laugh. "Bonuses? Only if you get 5-star ratings out the ass and work 70 hours a week. And even then, they forget sometimes. My buddy Jake had to fight 2 months to get his." Travis's hands curled into fists in his lap. The monthly reports he got always bragged about driver satisfaction rates. Was it all smoke and mirrors? He needed to dig deeper. "You ever complain to your boss?" Travis asked carefully. Raymond shrugged. "What's the point? Our manager, Mark, don't give a damn. He just tells us to hustle harder if we ain't happy. And the district guy, Mr. Price, he's worse. Talks to us like we're dirt." Travis's jaw clenched. He forced himself to nod, pretending to be just another working stiff. "That sucks, man." Raymond glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Yes, well, what can you do, right?" The ride ended at one of Travis's garages on the outskirts of the city. Travis paid and tipped heavily. As he watched Raymond drive away into the night, something inside him snapped. This wasn't what he built his company for. He wasn't going to let it rot from the inside, while he sat in a fancy office pretending everything was fine. Travis turned and walked into the garage, blending in with the evening shift drivers checking in. His fake ID badge labeled him as Tom Reed, a new trainee. He was going undercover, and this time he was staying until he saw the whole ugly truth. The garage buzzed with quiet activity. Drivers in faded jackets leaned against their cars, chatting or checking their phones. A few shuffled toward the small office tucked into the corner, where a heavy-set man with thinning hair sat behind a cluttered desk, barking orders between mouthfuls of a sandwich. Travis kept his head down, clutching the worn backpack he had brought to complete his disguise. A young woman with curly black hair and grease-streaked jeans waved him over. "You knew?" she asked, eyeing his badge. "Yeah, I just started," Travis said, adjusting his cap. She led him toward a line of older sedans. "Pick one that's got a green tag, means it's cleared for today. You're expected to check it yourself, though. If it breaks down, that's on you." He nodded, scanning the row. Half the cars had visible dings and cracked headlights. He chose a gray sedan that looked the least battered. The woman leaned against the hood, arms crossed. "Name's Lee, by the way. Been here 3 years. Don't expect much help if something goes wrong. They talk big about support, but you're on your own once you leave the lot." Travis opened the driver's door and winced at the cigarette smoke trapped inside. He rolled down the windows, letting in the cool evening air. Lee watched him. "Word of advice, keep your head down. Mark, he's the floor manager, he's not exactly patient." Before Travis could respond, a sharp voice barked across the lot. "Hey, new guy, move it." Mark stormed over, clipboard in hand. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a permanent scowl etched into his face. His polo shirt stretched tight across his gut, and his breath smelled strongly of stale coffee. "You got 1 minute to check your car and clock out. You think this is a charity?" Travis forced himself to nod, keeping his face neutral. Lee muttered under her breath and slipped away. Mark jabbed a finger at him. "We don't coddle crybabies here. Hustle or find another job." Without waiting for a response, he stomped off, yelling at another driver about parking too close to the entrance. Travis finished his hurried inspection, noting the balding tires and a hairline crack in the windshield. Nothing immediate enough to refuse the car without raising suspicion. He checked out at the small kiosk by the office, using the fake employee code he had been given during setup. The system glitched twice before accepting it, the screen flashing warnings about overdue maintenance. He pulled out of the garage, heart pounding. The app assigned him his first pickup, a woman named Carla, downtown near the riverfront. The traffic was brutal, and the brakes on the sedan squealed every time he stopped. By the time he reached Carla, he was 10 minutes late. She climbed in, frowning at her phone. "You're late," she snapped. "Sorry about that," Travis said, keeping his voice calm. "Traffic's rough tonight." She muttered something under her breath and spent the ride tapping furiously on her phone. When they arrived, she barely mumbled a thanks and slammed the door. Minutes later, Travis's phone buzzed with a notification, a 3-star rating and a complaint about unprofessionalism. He gritted his teeth. No wonder drivers were frustrated. The system punished them harshly, even when problems were out of their control. His next few rides went similarly. Drunken college students, a businessman who barked directions without looking up, an elderly couple who criticized every turn he made. Each time, Travis kept his cool, smiled, apologized when needed. By the end of the night, his back ached and his stomach growled. He pulled into a gas station to refuel, paying out of pocket. The company required drivers to cover their own gas and submit receipts for partial reimbursement, a process several drivers had warned him could take weeks. As he stood at the pump, another driver pulled in beside him. A tall man with deep lines on his face and a limp in his step. He wore a company windbreaker, stained and threadbare. "First week?" the man asked, eyeing Travis's hesitant movements. "First day," Travis admitted. The man chuckled without humor. "Good luck, kid, you'll need it." They talked as they fueled up. The man's name was Dennis. He had been driving for over 5 years, longer than most. He spoke in a low, tired voice. "Used to be decent money," Dennis said, capping his tank. "Now, they flood the market with too many drivers, cut the incentives. were fighting each other for scraps. Travis frowned. Does anyone ever bring this up to management? Dennis snorted. Management? You mean Mark? Last guy who complained got his hours slashed. Quiet punishment. They don't fire you, they just starve you out. As Travis drove back toward the lot, his mind raced. The next morning, he arrived early, determined to observe more. Inside the garage, Mark was berating a young driver, maybe 19 or 20, over a ticket the kid had gotten for expired registration. I don't want excuses, Mark bellowed, waving the ticket in the kid's face. You pay it yourself or you're out. But the office was supposed to update the plates, the kid stammered. Mark shoved the ticket into his chest. Not my problem. Travis's fists clenched at his sides. Later, during a break, Lee found him sitting on the curb, sipping a watery coffee from the vending machine. You look like you just learned Santa isn't real, she said, dropping down beside him. It's worse than I thought, Travis muttered. She nodded grimly. Yeah, and wait till you hear about Price. Lee explained that the district manager, Mr. Price, only showed up once a week, usually unannounced. When he did, he inspected uniforms, not the cars. He berated drivers for minor infractions, untucked shirts, dirty shoes, but never addressed mechanical issues or safety concerns. He cares more about appearances than whether our brakes work, Lee said. Last month, he made a guy cry in front of everyone because his car had a dent. Travis felt sick. He decided to stick around for Price's next visit. 2 days later, Price arrived without warning, sweeping into the garage with a clipboard and a Bluetooth headset jammed in his ear. He was sharply dressed, his shoes gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He walked up to the first driver he saw, a middle-aged woman named Rosa, and barked, "What's with the stains on your jacket? You represent this company. Get it together." Rosa flushed, mumbling an apology. Price turned on his heel and marched toward the office, calling out over his shoulder, "I expect standards, people. This isn't amateur hour." Travis watched in disbelief. Later, as Price prowled the lot, he overheard him muttering to Mark, "If they don't like it, they can leave. Plenty of desperate people out there." That was the final straw. Travis knew he couldn't stay silent much longer. He spent the rest of the day quietly documenting everything. Photos of unsafe cars, notes on how Mark and Price spoke to employees, even a recording of Price mocking drivers behind their backs. He made sure to blend in, doing his assigned pickups, chatting casually with drivers during breaks, gathering more stories of withheld bonuses, ignored maintenance requests, and retaliatory scheduling. Each story painted the same picture, a company that had lost its soul. By the end of the week, Travis had seen enough. His heart was heavy. He had built this company to help people, drivers and customers alike. Instead, it had become just another grindhouse, chewing up good people and spitting them out. He sat in the driver's seat of the battered gray sedan, looking out over the garage as the sun dipped low behind the buildings. Tomorrow, he would reveal who he really was. And he was bringing a storm with him. Travis parked the battered sedan at the far corner of the lot just as the morning shift drivers began trickling in. The sky was still a dull gray, the air thick with exhaust and stale coffee. Today, he wasn't just another face blending in. Today, he was going to pull the entire rotten structure into the light. He walked straight toward the office, the weight of the past week pressing into every step. Mark was already inside, hunched over a clipboard, barking instructions at a new group of drivers who stood stiffly at attention. Travis pushed the door open without knocking. Mark didn't even look up. "If you're here for a car assignment, wait outside," Mark snapped. Travis pulled the worn cap from his head and tossed it onto the counter. Mark finally glanced up, a frown creasing his face in confusion. I'm not here for a car, Travis said, voice low but steady. I'm here to talk about how you've been running my company into the ground. Mark's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The clipboard slipped from his hand, clattering onto the concrete floor. Across the garage, drivers stopped what they were doing. A few exchanged wide-eyed looks. Lee, standing near the vending machine, froze mid-sip. Price chose that moment to stride into the garage, sunglasses perched high on his forehead, Bluetooth still clipped to his ear. He caught sight of Travis and frowned. "Who the hell are you?" Price barked. Travis turned, meeting his gaze head-on. "Travis Russell, founder, owner, the guy who signs your paychecks." The room went deathly quiet. Even the squealing brakes of a departing car seemed to fade into the background. Price blinked rapidly, then laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Cute stunt. You think putting on a hoodie and a fake badge makes you some kind of hero." Travis stepped closer, every muscle in his body coiled tight. "I don't need to play a hero," he said. "I just need to clean house." Price's face darkened. "You think you can just walk in here and—" "You," Travis cut him off, pointing a finger directly at Price's chest, "are done. Effective immediately." Price's mouth opened again, but Travis didn't give him the chance. "I've documented it all," he said, voice rising just enough to carry across the lot. "The verbal abuse, the systemic neglect, the retaliation against drivers who dared to speak up." He turned, sweeping his gaze across the stunned crowd. "You've treated these people like they're disposable. You forgot they're the reason this company exists." Mark shuffled backward, bumping into the wall. His face had gone pale. "And you," Travis said, rounding on him, "you backed it every step of the way. You let cars go out unsafe. You punished drivers for problems you caused. You made good people feel small because it was easier than fixing anything." Mark opened his mouth, but only a choked sound came out. "You're fired," Travis said, voice cold. "Right now." An uncomfortable silence hung in the air. Price tried to rally. "You're making a mistake. The numbers are solid. The turnover is manageable. You think you can do better without people like us keeping them in line." Travis stared at him. "If keeping them in line means running a sweatshop, I don't want your kind of help. Get your things. You're trespassing the moment you finish." Security, already summoned by a quiet call from Travis's personal assistant waiting outside, entered and escorted Price and Mark off the premises. Neither man protested further. The look in Travis's eyes made it clear there would be no negotiation. As the door slammed shut behind them, a heavy silence settled over the remaining drivers. Travis turned back to face them. "I know a lot of you don't trust management anymore," he said, voice carrying steady across the lot. "Frankly, I wouldn't either, but that ends today." He walked toward the center of the group, meeting their eyes one by one. "First, no more retaliation. No more silent punishments. If you have a problem, you bring it to me or to someone personally appoint." A few drivers shifted uneasily, not sure whether to believe him yet. "Second, every vehicle here will be inspected by certified mechanics before it's cleared for use. No exceptions. No more risking your lives for a paycheck." Lee stepped forward hesitantly. "What about the bonus system? Half the time they just don't come." Travis nodded. "Starting today, bonuses will be automated through the app. If you qualify, you get it, no middlemen, no delays. I'll personally review the system until it runs right." Dennis, standing near the back, raised a hand slightly. "And the gas reimbursements?" "They'll be paid weekly," Travis said. "No more waiting months to get back what you already spent working for us." He paused, letting that sink in. "I'm not here to make promises I can't keep," he said. "This isn't a magic fix. It's going to take work. Real work, but you deserve better." A murmur rippled through the group. One of the younger drivers, the kid who had been berated over the ticket, stepped forward. His hands trembled slightly. And what about training?" he asked. "Half of us don't even know what to do if the car breaks down." Travis smiled faintly, the first real smile he had managed in days. "Mandatory training sessions. Paid, starting next week. Mechanical basics, customer service, handling emergencies. You won't be thrown into the deep end anymore." Another driver, an older woman with silver streaks in her hair, spoke up. "And the schedules. We can't keep doing 70-hour weeks just to survive." Travis nodded, the weight of her words hitting hard. "We're hiring more drivers immediately," he said. "Real screening, real onboarding. No more flooding the market just to squeeze you harder. You'll have reasonable hours, and nobody will be forced to work unsafe shifts." A tentative applause started near the back. It grew, slowly at first, then stronger, until the entire lot echoed with clapping. Travis waited until it died down before speaking again. "One more thing," he said. "I'll be back, regularly, unannounced. Not as the CEO in a suit, as me. I'm not going to disappear behind a desk again." He looked around at the faces, now watching him with something resembling hope. "You keep this company running," he said. "You deserve leadership that remembers that." He turned to Lee, who stood with her arms crossed, watching him carefully. "I need a temporary floor manager," he said. "Someone who actually gives a damn." Lee blinked, caught off guard. "You're serious?" she asked. "Completely." She hesitated a moment longer, then nodded. "All right, I'm in, but if you're lying, I'll call you out in front of everyone." Travis grinned. "Good, I wouldn't want it any other way." He spent the rest of the morning meeting drivers individually, hearing their concerns firsthand. Some were skeptical, others cautiously optimistic. Every complaint, every suggestion, Travis wrote down himself. By noon, a team of mechanics arrived, already inspecting the pool of vehicles. Travis stayed, overseeing everything, refusing to retreat to his office. He knew trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight. He had let rot fester too long for that. But this morning wasn't about fixing everything at once. It was about starting over. The right way. The garage smelled faintly of oil and damp concrete as the last of the morning drivers rolled out for their shifts. Travis stayed behind, leaning against the counter in the now silent office. Lee stood across from him, flipping through a clipboard with the first proper maintenance schedule the garage had seen in months. She tapped the paper with her pen. "We're short at least 12 drivers if we want to cut hours down to something livable." Travis nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'll have recruiting push local ads today. No empty promises. Real wages, clear schedules, guaranteed minimum hours." Lee raised an eyebrow. "You really think people are going to line up after what's been happening here?" "If we show them things are different, they will," Travis said. He pocketed the phone and looked out across the lot. "But talk is cheap, we need proof." At his request, the mechanics had set up a temporary inspection line outside. Every vehicle was being checked systematically before being cleared for assignments. Some cars were pulled from service, immediately worn tires, faulty brakes, cracked windshields that had been ignored for months. Travis authorized rental replacements out of pocket to keep operations moving. Inside the small lounge area, Travis found Dennis sitting stiffly at a table, nursing a cup of black coffee. His eyes were wary, the same look Travis had seen in too many drivers this week. Travis pulled out a chair. "You mind if I sit?" Dennis shrugged. "Your company." "No," Travis said, settling into the seat. "It's ours, if you're willing to stay, that is." Dennis studied him, his gaze heavy. "You really think you can fix this, after what they did?" "I don't expect you to trust me yet," Travis said, "but I'm not leaving until this place is something we can all be proud of again." Dennis gave a slow nod, the beginnings of something cautious in his eyes, not trust, not yet, but maybe the willingness to hope. Across the day, Travis moved through the operations like any other worker. He didn't issue commands from behind glass walls. He rolled up his sleeves and helped drivers load supplies into their cars, handed out new uniforms personally, and stood beside Lee while she organized the first rotation of safety training. When the sun dipped low again, Travis called an all-hands meeting in the garage. The drivers gathered in loose circles, still wary, still tired. Travis stood atop a crate, hands at his sides. He didn't need a microphone. His voice carried naturally. "I'm not here to make speeches," he said. "You've heard enough words, you deserve action." He gestured toward the lot where mechanics still toiled under floodlights. "Every car here will meet strict standards before it hits the road. Every driver will have a fair shot at hours and bonuses, and every one of you will have a voice." A ripple ran through the group, disbelief, hesitation, but also a flicker of something warmer. A tall woman with deep laugh lines around her eyes crossed her arms. "What happens when you go back to the main office, when you're not here to see it?" Travis met her gaze without flinching. "There will be cameras installed throughout public areas, not to punish you, to protect you. Every inspection will be logged, every complaint documented. No more invisible suffering." He let the words settle. Another driver, a wiry man with a cast on his wrist, spoke up. "They used to dock us for taking time off, even if we were hurt." Travis looked him straight in the eye. "From now on, if you're injured, you'll be fully covered. We're setting up a real health and safety program. No more punishing people for being human." A younger woman, barely out of her teens, spoke next, voice trembling. "What about when customers lie? When they say we were rude or late, even when we weren't?" Travis nodded. "Every vehicle gets a dash cam with audio, not for spying, for fairness. If you do your job right, you'll have proof on your side." The crowd shifted again, posture loosening slightly, the collective air of battered skepticism giving way inch by inch. Dennis stepped forward from the back, his voice rough but carrying. "What about leadership? You going to keep hiring bullies like Mark and Price?" "No," Travis said without hesitation. "From now on, all managers start from inside the ranks. People who know what it's like out here. People who earn your respect." He glanced at Lee, who gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "And if any manager abuses their power," Travis continued, "they're out. No second chances." The drivers murmured among themselves, the tide turning further. A heavy-set man near the front, who had stayed silent until now, finally raised his voice. "Why should we believe you?" Travis stepped down from the crate, walked right up to him, and extended his hand. "Don't believe me yet," he said simply. "Watch, hold me accountable." The man hesitated, then shook his hand, rough calluses scraping against Travis's palm. Small but real. After the meeting, Travis didn't retreat to an office. He helped clean up the garage, sweeping floors, moving cones, hauling toolboxes back into storage. No one asked him to. No one expected it, and maybe that was why it mattered. By midnight, the place looked different. Still battered, still rough around the edges, but cleaner, organized, alive. Travis sat outside on the curb, exhaustion pulling at him. Lee joined him, handing him a bottle of water. "You're crazy, you know that," she said. He cracked the bottle open. "Probably." She leaned back, staring at the stars struggling to pierce the city haze. "They're not going to trust you overnight," she said. "Might not even trust you in a month." "I know," Travis said, "but if I expect loyalty, I have to earn it." Lee smiled a real smile, tired but genuine. "Well, you're off to a better start than the last guy." They sat in companionable silence for a while. the garage humming quietly behind them as the night shift drivers rolled out into the sleeping city. Travis knew the road ahead was long. He knew mistakes would still happen, that culture wouldn't heal overnight. But the first cracks in the old foundation had been broken apart. And from the rubble, something better could grow, something built on respect, fairness, and the simple, stubborn belief that people deserved better. He stood up, stretching sore muscles. "Back here tomorrow?" Lee asked. "Every day for as long as it takes," Travis said. He walked back inside, the smell of fresh oil and newly cleaned floors filling his lungs. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And this time, he wasn't looking away.